Republican Senator Tom Cotton said something during a recent interview, or a series of things, that sort of reminded me that it is really easy when observing American politics to get desensitized to dishonesty, because I was preparing for today's show and had kind of his clip playing on Fox News, and then was looking for other clips and didn't even take note of what he was saying. My brain didn't even latch onto the fact that he was just lying, because it was just background noise. And because his voice was sort of monotone, my brain forgot that, oh my goodness, this person is just casually telling so many lies in a row. And again, it reminded me that it is really easy to just start tuning out dishonesty and not be stunned by it. But so that we continue to demand honesty, we have to continue to be shocked by dishonesty. So that's my reminder in this segment for us all. And we'll be reminded by Republican Senator Tom Cotton here, where he's just calmly responding to this narrative that's constantly pushed now on the right wing, that there's a weaponized Department of Justice and Biden is targeting Donald Trump and Trump's his big victim. And so often when asked about that subject, many of these Republicans just collapse into puddle, that would make sense, collapse into a pile, there we go, of dishonesty and dishonest talking points, and just spit out all the same tired talking points. Take a look at this.
Not. Senate Democrats, and especially the Democrats in the Judiciary Committee, are like a phalanx of bodyguards surrounding the Biden administration. So we haven't had so much as a briefing on the treatment of Hunter Biden with kid gloves, trying to give him immunity for every crime he ever committed in a way that a judge couldn't even review and sign off on it, versus the treatment of Donald.
So we'll get to the next point, but to address that, what is he talking about? Give Hunter Biden immunity for all of his crimes? That never happened. The plea deal he's referring to as a sweetheart deal that was going to give immunity for all of Hunter Biden's crimes fell apart, so it's a little bit irrelevant. But also, if it had gone through, yeah, it turned out nice for Hunter Biden, but it was also in line with similar plea deals for similar sets of potential charges. And so it wasn't super out of the ordinary that was the agreement that seemed to be on track to get reached. And if you have a good lawyer, it's very predictable that you might see something like that for the potential charges he was facing. And then it fell apart. So on both fronts, he's wrong. And then now, I have to say, Hunter Biden, he is being treated differently. I think he's being treated worse because of who he is. Now he has a special counsel getting extra authority to oversee his investigation. And all this attention and all this pressure to do something really, really serious. And so just completely contrary to what Tom Cotton's pushing there. Next, we move on to Trump.
Donald Trump, where you now have 3 rogue, zealous prosecutors who are prosecuting Donald Trump for what's really activity involved in a campaign, core political activity at the heart of our democracy. Something that happened in 2016 and 2020, yet they're only now charging him in the summer of 2023. Why is that? It's because they want the trials to be in the middle of the campaign next year. They didn't bring these charges 2 years ago. They didn't bring them a year ago. They brought them in a way that would ensure that the media would obsess about Donald Trump's conduct in the past, not about what Joe Biden is doing in the present and what he will do in the future. Yet Senate Democrats have not even lifted a finger to examine this, and for that matter, the double standards you see.
Okay, so let's address that, then we'll get to his final point on the other double standards. He calls Trump's prosecutions prosecuting core political activity at the heart of our democracy. So as I've said in the past, play that out, Tom Cotton. Do you think it would be core political activity if it had worked, which is what they were trying to do to make their plan work? And because you're blinded by partisanship, let's flip it around. Instead of Trump being the one taking those actions, let's pretend Biden does it in 2024. So let's pretend, horrible to think about this, but let's just pretend that Trump wins in 2024, okay? Tom Cotton's excited. Trump's going to be the next president. And then Joe Biden, as president, gets Kamala Harris to promise to reject the certification of Trump's win, and even more horrifying, decides to put together an alternate slate of electors and get Kamala Harris to say, yeah, those are the real ones. Those random people saying they're the electors instead of the lawful ones, I select them, and I'm going to count those votes. And Joe Biden's the president, and then Joe Biden just stays president. Trump won, but Joe Biden stays president. How would you feel about that? Would that be core political activity? That would be democracy in shambles. That would be rule of law in shambles. We have a lawful election process, and Trump wanted to throw that in the garbage can. And so it's so dishonest, again, but casual and calm and not even notable because of how often we hear these talking points. Last one here.
For that matter, the double standards you see on ordinary Americans. I mean, remember we had the Department of Justice sicked on parents who are attending school board meetings in Virginia, worried about the propaganda and filth their kids were learning. We had a...
And once again, we hear that lie. What actually was happening, it wasn't parents who were coming forward and being angry in a meeting. You're allowed to do that 100%, share your views with your school board members. It was not that. It was parents or just people in the community who, maybe for the same reasons as those who were getting angry in the meetings, and maybe the same people, some of them, but it had nothing to do with them being angry in the meetings and sharing their views, which they're allowed to do. It had to do with death threats that were being made, threats of violence that were being made. And so if you're saying, Tom Cotton, that law enforcement shouldn't be concerned when school board members are receiving death threats, then something's up with you. I don't know. That's bizarre. They were not going after parents for sharing their views in a school board meeting. No, of course not. They were concerned with those in the community that were threatening school board members and threatening others in the community with violence, threats to their life. That is what was concerned with, or what the DOJ was concerned with. And they've twisted that to depict this image of a mom who's just angry at a meeting and the DOJ is grabbing her, which obviously didn't happen. So the three main points there: Hunter Biden, wrong, what he said, Trump, completely wrong, and the DOJ targeting parents, completely wrong. But he says it casually, so maybe you'll eat that up because he says it casually. And I invite you, I implore you, I beg you to not allow that to happen, where the constant dishonesty becomes so normal that doesn't really bother you. It should bother you. And I try to have a little bit of fun with it so I don't get angry, but it should at least be something you take note of and wholeheartedly reject every single time you hear it. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are able to be uploaded to the YouTube channel, plus get the bonus show on the weekends, you can do so by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/membership. That's lukebeasleyshow.com/membership, and there's a link in the description.